Good morrow, scholars. Welcome back to Zombie Survival Week. Did I say that right? I kind of slur my words. I think I just did then. Excuse me. Anyway, welcome back to Zombie Survival Week, episode 3. That is episode 3, right? Today's Wednesday? So, hi, Adam. Okay, today I kind of forgot what I wanted to go over, so I figured why not just talk about weapons in detail rather than just like in passing in episode 1. So, why did I say so? Anywho, let's go over types of weapons. I say types of weapons, but really, we're just gonna cover melee weapons and ranged weapons, of which, for the range, there isn't too many that would be feasible. Um, anyway, melee weapons would include such things as swords, knives, axes, a spear if you happen to have one, brass knuckles if you're proficient in martial arts. That's another thing. Anything you could use as a bludgeon, say a baseball bat, croquet bat if you're into that. You know, things of that nature. And as for ranged weapons, we have all your different kinds of guns because in the United States, please ignore the Mexico part, I guess, like most of the United States does apparently. And we've got bows and arrows, and we've got crossbows. Now, there are pros and cons to each of these weapons. You know, swords and knives, they're sharp, you know, you can stab or slice if you were good enough. Axes are meant to take a pounding. Hatchets are just smaller versions, so they can also stand up real well. A spear would be really difficult to use because you'd either have to aim into the open mouth or through the eye sockets. Brass knuckles are something that a lot of people don't think about, and for the most part, I wouldn't recommend them because even with brass knuckles, you're going to break the skin on your own knuckles, and if the zombie infection spreads through contact with contaminated blood, then you're just going to increase the chances. I don't know what's wrong with me today. I just had an orange. Maybe that's what it is. Um, Increase your chances of being exposed to the virus or however it's transmitted. For the most part, martial arts I wouldn't recommend, if only because that puts you way too close to the zombies. But if you're proficient in types of martial arts such as judo that focus mainly on throws rather than like takedowns, grapples, or inflicting pain, I guess, punches and kicks, definitely go for it. Although kicks might help if you can aim for their midsection and knock them over, because the legs are obviously the strongest part of the human body. Uh, Guns. No, everyone's gonna have their own type of gun that they prefer and that they think is best over all the other ones. And I can't really say with any certainty which gun you, the viewer or viewers, would want, because me personally, I don't like guns. Like I said, I think in episode 1, I'm just not a fan. That's not to say, however, they're useless. They're actually quite useful. If you need to get somewhere or get out of somewhere in a pinch, they can definitely give you that kind of power that you need to get through quickly rather than, you know, like taking your time with a melee weapon. That said, you also run the risk of alerting more zombies to you the more you're firing off, so you want to use them sparingly, only when absolutely necessary. And I wouldn't recommend hunting with a gun either, because then you'd have to take what you killed far away from where you killed it, and lugging extra weight around you, especially something that can attract scavengers and hunters, be recommended, if only because it gives you a greater chance of discovery, either from wild animals or zombies, or just people also out hunting. And that's where someone who's proficient in, you know, compound bows, recurve bows, or crossbows would be invaluable, as seen in The Walking Dead with Daryl. They're quiet, they're quick, and you can reload. That said, unlike The Walking Dead, a crossbow wouldn't be too useful in a zombie encounter with large numbers, because it takes too long to set up. I believe the Zombie Survival Guide called it a sniper's weapon, not a crowd stopper. So, just things to keep in mind. I should go a little bit more in depth, I guess, with guns, however little I know. I know that in the United States you can get a gun almost anywhere. I think, how does the joke go? You can get a gun and ammunition out of the little crane machines at like Walmart's down in Texas. Something like that. Anywho, so most people obviously would want to go with some sort of an assault rifle or a shotgun or like dual wield pistols, stuff like that. And if you're proficient in them and you've had the training, go for it. Although don't dual wield, we're not meant for, two sides, meant like one. Plus it conserves ammunition. Personally, and this is only because of the Zombie Survival Guide, if I were to pick a gun to use, I would pick a .22 rimfire rifle, because it's the smallest round. They're not actually that small. That one could buy and use, and at the proper range with the proper accuracy and training, one would be able to inflict massive damage in the brain case, even though it wouldn't penetrate at farther ranges. And going from there, 22 rimfire is also the most abundant in terms of available ammunition. And you got to remember, ammunition isn't universal. You can't take one gun's type of bullets or shells or what have you and use them in another one. Some of you might remember that from Iron Man 3, where for some reason Tony had no idea about that. Alright, so let's assume that you don't have any guns, you don't have a sword like I do, or a knife, or an axe, or a spear, brass knuckles, and you're no good with martial arts. That last one is me. There are plenty of tools around the house. Usually, I guess if you live in an apartment, you'd be less likely to have anything such as these. But if you're some sort of a farmer, or you're just an enthusiast, you could use a sickle. Is the large one or the little one? The scythe is the big one. Okay, sickles would be good. Now, some of you might remember this. I think it wasn't Dawn of the Dead, was it? Where they ran into the Amish, the mute Amish man?
I think it was.
No, it was Diary of the Dead.
Diary.
Yeah, Diary of the Dead. He had a sickle with him, and when the zombie was biting on his neck, spoilers in case you wanted to watch this movie, and he's able to use the sickle and drive it through his head and through the zombies behind him. If you happen to have that, swing. It's got a lot of weight behind it. It can cut through definitely a few times, and it's sturdy. So if you were good at that and you're able to swing, you could take the heads off. Or if nothing else, you can like scoop or hook it around the ankles, pull, and knock them over. A sickle works as a smaller version. Think of it like you would do a hatchet and just go through. We've got hammers. That includes sledgehammers. Now, if you're a big guy, or a very strong girl, or a small guy who's also strong, a sledgehammer would be good, not just for knocking over zombies or just bashing their heads in, in a more dramatic way than a baseball bat, although a baseball bat runs the risk, if it's metal, of bending and therefore being mostly useless, or a wooden one breaking after heavy use. You could also knock down doors, or if a wall is weak enough, you could knock through a wall to get away, or you can open up pretty much anything you want. Another good thing to have in a similar manner is a crowbar. One you could stab through the eyes like so, swing it and hook on something, or get down, hook the ankle, knock a zombie off balance. Another thing is that it's excellent for prying open doors in case you don't have a sledgehammer that can knock it down. And I mentioned this in episode 1. I think it was episode 1. A shovel. You're going to need a shovel even if you don't use it as a weapon. Like I said in episode 1, you can just jab it through the indentation between the forehead and the nose. So that's where it would be easiest to break the skull. Although if you're really good and you can get the mouth, why not go for it? Practice. But also, you're going to want something that can either... Well, not either, but you're going to want something that can bury bodies. And obviously, the shovel. And you might be asking, why would you want to bury the bodies? Well, some of us might be more inclined to give fallen comrades or loved ones a proper burial out of respect. But also, if a fire is too risky for you to, burn all the bodies, then the best thing to do is bury them deep and far enough away that they won't contaminate your, what do you call it? Your haven, I guess we'll call it. And if all else fails, you could get a 2x4. Now, it's unwieldy and there's no grip point for it, which is a problem with the crowbar. But if you can grab a hold of it and you could just jam it into the face of a zombie, why not? And finally, I think this episode might end up running a little short. It's just a feeling. But finally, also, I have my list, because the last couple episodes I haven't been leaving a list. I just kind of run on a tangent when I mention something. I've done it a couple times in this episode. Anyway, let's talk about blade weapons versus blunt weapons. Now, a lot of people think blades are cooler, and they tend to gravitate towards them just because of the wow factor. And personally, I'm the same way. That's why I have so many swords, and I've got a bunch of knives and a few daggers. Daggers being slightly different from a knife. Anyway, and it's true that bladed weapons have the ability to pierce through such things as, say, the arm, or if you're really good, the neck. But repeated use, saying cutting off the top of the head, or just really cutting through all this, they're going to either chip away at the edge or just break entirely. Because they're not meant for that kind of use, and they're very high maintenance. You've got to be able to take care of them and sharpen them, but you don't want them so sharp that you can cut through everything, because the sharper something is, the weaker it is because there's less weight behind it. So you want something that's moderately sharp, and then what cuts through is the force and the weight of the weapon. Although if it's like a Japanese katana, then it's going to be the force. But you've got to remember, it doesn't come from putting power into it so much as it is speed. I think Bruce Lee said something similar about his kicks. Now, that isn't to say that blunt weapons are any better, because as I mentioned before, if you're not strong enough, or you're not good with your aim, you're gonna either miss a lot, or you're gonna end up breaking it, either the handle, or somehow maybe you could break the hammer part of the sledgehammer, which wouldn't be too fun for anybody involved, because the same with blades, should they shatter, The splinters could get all up in anywhere, and who knows, it could leave you blinded, it could tear up your hand, it might have infected matter on it. And let's see. So yeah, if you're smaller, definitely go for knives because you can keep more of them on your person. If you're larger, definitely have something like a sledgehammer on you, if only to use as a way to knock down something. But yeah, everybody should have at least 4 knives on them at all times. That way, if they lose one in the brain, or I guess in the head of a zombie, they've got another one they can grab very quickly. Remember, be prepared, just like the song says in The Lion King, and also the Boy Scouts. You want to have replacements, and you want to have the necessary capabilities to maintain these weapons, especially guns. That's another reason guns aren't too reliable, because if you're going to be out in the wilderness, they're more likely to jam and whatnot. You know, getting all the dirt and everything in them, and you might not have enough time to be cleaning them all the time to maintain it when a zombie comes in. And oh, another thing, don't try and use a gun as a blunt weapon unless you know how, because if you were to swing it like you would a club or a baseball bat, it's gonna bend, it's gonna break, and it's gonna be completely useless. If you've got a strong enough rifle or a shotgun, you take it like so that the gun's pointing that way, and you've got the butt of the rifle or what have you, and you just bash them in the head. Well, I think that just about covers any type of weapons that one might use. If there's anything else that you think I should have gone over, be sure to mention it down in the comments, and I'll either make a new video where I mention it, or I'll re-edit this one and add it in there. Although I'll probably change the shirt. Go Mexico. Why did I do that? I don't know what it is. Okay, well, thanks for watching, you guys, and till next time. Bye, everybody. Ding.